You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Trump's pathological denial explained by one legal concept, Nobel economist, based on an article by Nick Hilden. Bad faith is the operating system. The story beneath the tantrums. The surface story is that Trump is lashing out at his appointees. The actual story is that this government cannot tell the truth to itself without collapsing its own machinery. Paul Krugman's point is not that Trump is unusually cranky. It is that a government built on deception eventually turns inward, and the lies start sabotaging governance before the public even gets the memo. The examples matter because they are not random. A DOJ justification that does not survive scrutiny, a false vaccine line that RFK Jr. is supposed to sell, a defense secretary feeding Trump a sanitized fantasy about depleted munitions, and a tariff rationale so transparently fake that literally nobody believes it. These are not isolated communications failures. They are the working parts of a political system that treats truth as an obstacle. Power sits at the top. The people with power are obvious. Trump, his cabinet, his Justice Department, his defense leadership, his contractors, and the agencies carrying out punishment. The weaker actors are the ones being used as cover, blamed downward, or forced to absorb the consequences. That is the central asymmetry here. Trump is not an observer of bad governance. He is the source of the incentives that produce it. When the reflecting pool failed because of shoddy work by Trump's chosen contractors, the line of responsibility should not stop at a contractor. The contractor was selected by the president's own political network. When FEMA aid is denied to blue states and the explanation keeps shifting until the punishment is obvious, the issue is not bureaucratic confusion. The issue is political retaliation with a paper trail. This is what authoritarian adjacent systems do. They concentrate authority, then use lower-level functionaries as disposable insulation. Bad faith is not a side effect. Krugman's most useful idea here is the presumption of regularity, and the reason it matters is simple. Democratic institutions depend on some baseline assumption that government actors are not manufacturing reality as they go. Under Trump, that assumption is being shredded in public. Courts are already treating the administration's claims with suspicion because the administration has earned that suspicion. That is not merely a legal problem. It is a political regime problem. If officials know the truth will anger Trump, they lie upward. If they know the public explanation will be audited, they lie outward. If they know a report may document failure, they suppress it. The result is a government that cannot diagnose its own damage because every level is incentivized to flatter power instead of inform it. That is why bad faith is the right term. It captures intent, not confusion. These are not mistakes made by earnest people trying and failing. They are deliberate distortions used to preserve authority, evade accountability, and push through policies that would not survive honest description. The lie travels downhill. The munitions episode is especially revealing. Trump's failed war on Iran depleted stockpiles, but the chain of responsibility does not end with him discovering the shortage late. It extends through a military culture where nobody wants to tell Hegseth things he doesn't want to hear. That is not leadership. That is a fear structure. Once power is organized around punishment for honesty, the bureaucracy stops functioning as an information system. It becomes a loyalty filter. Hegseth blames his deputy. The deputy may have lied upward. Trump rages at the people below him for not protecting him from rivalry. This is how bad faith metastasizes. Everyone learns that survival depends on anticipating the boss's preferred fiction. That is the deeper scandal. The danger is not only that Trump lies to the public, it is that he has built or reinforced a hierarchy in which people lie to him, to each other, and then to the country. A state that cannot transmit accurate information cannot govern competently, even when it is trying to do harm. Misdirection as policy. The administration's preferred pattern is constant. Invent a justification, attach it to a pre-existing grievance, and let the media debate the excuse instead of the motive. Tariffs become slave labor enforcement. Snap cuts become fraud prevention. FEMA punishment becomes something else until the motive leaks out. This is not governance with bad messaging. It is policy wrapped in pretext. That matters because pretext launders cruelty. If the public accepts the fake rationale, then the real intent can keep operating undercover. The actual purpose of slashing food aid or punishing disfavored states is obscured by procedural language and moral theater. The trick is to force everyone to argue about the stated reason while the material outcome stays intact. The same logic applies to the government's treatment of legal proceedings. If indictments are pursued vindictively, then the lie is not incidental. It is the mechanism. The administration is trying to make legal process serve political revenge while preserving the appearance of regularity. Once that cover starts failing in court, the system has to resort to more open contempt for facts. The pattern is broader than Trump's temper. This story is not about a president who gets angry too easily. It is about a political order that treats truth as negotiable and loyalty as the only stable currency. Trump is the most visible expression of that order, but he is not the only reason it exists. The institutions around him keep adapting to his demands, his moods, and his lies. That adaptation is the real corruption. Democratic politics should not pretend this is normal interbranch friction or a personality flaw with administrative side effects. It is a mode of rule. It rewards subordinates for deception, punishes honesty, and turns public power into a machine for punishing enemies and disguising the damage. If the government cannot tell the truth to itself, it cannot be trusted to tell the truth to anyone else. The larger lesson is brutal. When power is organized around bad faith, every institution becomes less capable of learning, correcting, or restraining itself. That is how democratic capacity erodes in real time, not through one dramatic break, but through 1,000 deliberate lies that make the state stupider, crueler, and more dangerous with each cycle. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Amy, thanks for listening.